Thanks for coming to 1500ESPN.com. I'm Derek Wetmore. This is Matthew Collar.
Who is taller than Derek?
He wants everyone to know that he's taller than me. Great.
By quite a bit.
Now that we've got that established, I want to talk about quarterbacks.
You even wore a hat to add like an extra quarter inch.
I'm going to grow my hair out and spike it up a little bit, do the little foofy thing so that I look taller.
Beautiful.
Napoleonic syndrome. I want to spend this video talking about quarterbacks. If that's okay with you, we'll specifically focus on the Vikings quarterbacks. Obviously, they signed Sam Bradford. See, I did that
doing
in a
that
tweet
all day.
too. Shaun Hill is their presumed number one until they signed Sam Bradford, who will probably take over at some point, maybe as early as week one. But Mike Zimmer would not comment on who will be starting. He said it's possible Sam Bradford starts. Bradford said he doesn't know. He's up to his ears in the playbook trying to figure it out. Matthew, you think that Shaun Hill should start in week one. Why is that?
I do think Shaun Hill should start in week one because I went back and watched a lot of Carson Palmer playing when the Oakland Raiders traded for him. Now, It was a couple of years ago. It was 2011. But when they traded for him and threw him right into the Wolves in the second half of a game against Kansas City because Kyle Bowler was Kyle Bowler.
Sure.
He was really bad. And there were some issues that stuck out right away with Carson Palmer. One of them was they didn't know how to deal with blitzes.
Yeah.
And I asked Joe Berger today, Berger?
I think it's Berger. Zimmer calls him Berger. I think it's Berger.
Whatever.
I'm not
I
throwing
asked
the coach
the
under the
center of the team about that, and he basically said, well, the responsibility is mostly on the quarterback when it comes to blitz pickup, and I think that could be a really big challenge. And if you're the Tennessee Titans, what are you going to do? New quarterback, doesn't know the offense, doesn't know the calls.
Pressure.
You're going to pressure him a lot. You're going to send a lot of blitzes, hoping that he's not on the same page as his wide receivers. I think for 1 week to start Shaun Hill, just to give Sam Bradford a little bit of time. Shaun Hill, in terms, I know people don't love him as a starting quarterback, but in terms of a backup quarterback to fill in for one game, he's about the highest end of that you could find. So I think you could trust him for one game against a team that has kind of a bad secondary too, to just get the job done and then turn things over to Sam Bradford.
Well, and Zimmer specifically mentioned that they're probably going to load the box. This is Tennessee, I'm talking. And that's the Adrian Peterson effect. Like, you're going to see that probably all year. I would agree with your point. That's probably amplified this week, knowing that, hey, he's not going to know where the checkdowns are. He's not going to know how to. He basically admitted that he's going to be relying on center Joe Berger to figure out pressures and, change protections. Because that used to be the case in Bridgewater's rookie year, too, actually, as a matter of fact. He knew the protections and he knew the pressures and stuff, but he relied an awful lot on recently cut center John Sullivan to change those protections, saying he'd turn around just pre-snap and say, hey, Teddy, you see what they're bringing? Do you maybe want to think about checking out of this? And then Bridgewater would check. One of the reasons he had some success in his rookie season. I think that, to make my point shorter than I just did, I do think that you're going to see that amplified here in the first couple weeks with Sam Bradford as quarterback of the Vikings, because teams know, hey, we're probably not going to get burned too much on the back end if we send the house to try to get the quarterback.
Right. And, well, there's two parts to that. I mean, first of all, loading the box against Adrian Peterson is not a way to stop him. I have a piece on this on 1500ESPN.com coming out.
Tease.
All right.
Pretty nice. Nicely done.
Yeah, but Adrian Peterson is one of the better in the league facing off with eight-man fronts. In fact, he's done it for his whole career. And last year, Norv Turner found some great ways, especially with two tight end sets, to get him to the outsides where he had a lot of success. So you could sort of cut the field in half and make it, well, okay, you've got an eight-man front, but we're really only dealing with this side and get him out in space. So I think there are still ways to beat that. Plus, Sam Bradford, the one thing you can do is you can just launch it deep if you're the starting quarterback. If you're just beginning, please go ahead. That's fine. If you're just beginning, one of the things you could do, if you don't know the offense that well, is just launch it down the field. The success that Carson Palmer did have, while it was small in that game, was just taking one step and throwing it down the field, which Bradford does have a halfway decent deep ball. So they could start him. I would probably still go with Shaun Hill. I think there's a good case for that for one game against a team that I don't think we have a ton of respect for. But I could see the case for Bradford just trying to simplify the offense and use a lot of Adrian Peterson.
You mentioned Bradford. I'll ask you one final question on this. You mentioned Bradford's deep ball. You wrote a piece on 1500ESPN.com.
Sure did.
Another plug.
Go there. You're probably already there.
The title, I think, was Is Sam Bradford good? Or How Good is Sam Bradford? Simple question, but you explored the premise of similar to Bridgewater, actually, in that when he's been put in situations to succeed, he's done that by and large. He's fairly accurate in the short to mid-range. He has the arm. I'd argue he probably has a bigger arm than Bridgewater, at least at this point in his career. But you're also seeing some accuracy, especially if the 7-game stretch at the end of last season is a good indicator. That anyway, Bradford in the right offense can be an effective passer. Do you see this being a good fit overall for Bradford with the Vikings?
Yeah, I think they're going to have to make some changes. My initial impression when they traded for him was, well, this is a guy who can complete some of those 15 to 20-yard passes.
Sure.
But going back and actually looking through every game that he played last year, just like the front office.
Yeah, probably not quite as many hours, but same principle.
Yeah, but I looked through a lot of his passes, though,
Sure.
and basically how the Philadelphia Eagles ran their offense, and they didn't have a lot of those passes for him, and when they did, they weren't that successful, and a lot of his interceptions came on the 15-yard deep out, which Teddy Bridgewater, to me, was money on.
Sure.
I don't think Sam Bradford is money on that,
Okay.
so I think you're going to have to tweak it. He was best at throwing it somewhere between 5 and 10 yards, shorter passes, quick guys coming through the middle, going to the running backs out of the backfield. Actually, Jerick McKinnon should be pretty happy about this move. Good for you, Jerick. Because Sam Bradford loved to throw quick screens and things like that to the running backs out of the backfield. And so they're going to have to tweak the offense a little bit too. It's not just, hey, learn what we got, but it's also, we've got to change a little for everybody in order for him to step right in, which is another reason I think probably Shaun Hill should be the week 1 starter, but I tend to think they'll go with Sam Bradford.
Yeah, I think they're probably leaning that way too, just based on the conversation from today. It was limited, and so I'm not trying to read too much into those tea leaves, but I do think you can lean on the defense. You lean on Adrian Peterson. Bradford himself mentioned we're not an offense that's going to throw it 60 times or anything like that. If that was the case, you're probably not going to trust a quarterback to learn in 6 days what he has to do.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, whatever. What if he's going to throw? What if he's only going to drop back 25 times because they can just lean on Peterson so heavily? I do think they'll probably go Bradford, but it's up in the air right now.
Yeah, I think the biggest concern might be if you get down a little bit to the Titans and you really have to rely on your quarterback.
Sure.
Here's a funny thing about Shaun Hill. He's had some amazing games.
Yeah.
And I mean recently.
Right.
Like
2014?
2014, he started 8 games, and about 3 or 4 of them were incredible games where he had quarterback ratings well over 100, high QBRs, and then there were other games where he was a bust fire.
Terrible games,
Yeah, right, exactly. But if you get down in a game and you've got a quarterback who barely knows the offense, I just wonder about the ability to come back or stay in some sort of shootout if that's what it becomes. We don't really know exactly what Mariota's going to look like. He might take a next step himself and look very good in week 1. He certainly showed signs in year 1 that he could be very good.
Yeah.
So if they get down, you get in a shootout, then it becomes very difficult for Sam Bradford when he doesn't know the whole offense.
I like it. Good stuff.
Sports
is right. Football. He's Matthew Collar.
Next one we'll do like this.
Yeah. Can I stand up on my tiptoes? This is Matthew Collar. He's the new guy.
That's
Give
me.
him a follow, Vikings fans, on Twitter, just at Matthew Collar.
Search my legs.
Plain and generic, like me, at Derek Wetmore. Follow us both. Plenty of Vikings coverage this year. We'll see you next time.